Hello students, welcome to this lecture where we're going to discuss the direct effect of nutrition and behavior. In the previous classes we have talked about the introduction to nutrition and behavior. We have seen the historical perspective of nutrition and behavior, and therefore it's my pleasure to introduce you to the direct effect of nutrition and behavior. Basically, in this unit we are trying to find the links that connects nutrition and behavior. So I'm going to start by looking at the role of nutrients in the brain development. So approximately 22 days after conception, the neural plate begins to fold inward, forming the neural tube, which eventually becomes the brain and spinal cord. Adequate nutrition is necessary from the beginning, with the formation of neural plate and neural tube affected by nutrients such as folic acid, also known as folate, the copper and vitamin A. 7 weeks after conception, cell divisions begin within the neural tube, creating nerve cells, also called the neurons, and glial cells. These are the cells that supports the neuron, or they nourishes the neuron. So the neurons and the neuroglia are formed 7 weeks after conception. After a neuron is created, it migrates to its place in the brain, where it then grows axon and dendrites, projecting out from its cell body. These branching projections make connections with other cells called synapses, and the synapses are the points where the neurons exchange information, through which nerve signals travels from one cell to another. These neurodevelopment process begin during gestation and continues throughout infancy. Group of neurons form pathway which are refined through the program elimination of cells and connection. About a half of all the cells that are produced in the brain are subsequently eliminated throughout childhood and adolescence. Synapses are also overproduced and then selectively eliminated. Some of this refining of the neural pathway depend on the child's experience, or in other words, input from the child's environment. Therefore, environment plays a great impact on the brain development of a child. Cells and connections that are activated are retained and strengthened, while those that are not used are eliminated. This is thought to be one of the primary mechanisms of brain plasticity, allowing the brain to organize itself to adapt to the environment and reorganize itself to recover from the injury during development. Therefore, it's very important for parents to ensure that the environment in which their children grow, it's a stimulating environment that will not permit elimination of some of the neurons, to be able to give the child space to have optimal growth development, or the neural development. Then let's look at the long-term consequences of undernutrition in the early life. So if a child experiences a long-term undernutrition, it's likely be able to cause some harm concerning to the child's welfare. Therefore, children who had suffered from early malnutrition had poor IQ level, cognitive functions and school achievement, as well as greater behavioral problems. Chronic malnutrition as measured by physical growth, that is far below average for a child age, is also associated with reduced cognitive and motor development. From the first year of life through school age, children who are short for their age, or in other words, they are stunted or underweight for their age, score lower than their normal size peers on average. In cognitive and motor tasks and in school achievement, growth faltering can begin before birth, and the evidence indicates that being born small for gestational age is associated with mild to moderately low performance in school during childhood and adolescence, and with lower psychological and intellectual performance in young childhood. This evidence shows that severe acute malnutrition and chronic malnutrition are clearly associated with impaired cognitive development. Let's now focus on the breastfeeding practices and how it can affect the child's brain development. So breastfeeding is an act of where the baby feeds from the mother's milk, and it's advisable that a mother breastfeed the infant for the first 6 months of life. Thereafter, she is allowed to introduce complementary foods to be able to complement the inadequate milk at that time. So breastfeeding may improve cognitive development through several potential mechanisms related both to the composition of breast milk and to the experience of breastfeeding. A suite of nutrients, growth factor, and hormones that are important for for brain development are abundant in the breast milk, including critical building blocks such as DHA and choline. The physical act of breastfeeding may foster a positive mother-infant relationship and enhance mother-infant interaction, which are important for cognitive and social-economic development. Breastfeeding also elicits a hormonal response in mother during each feeding session, which may cause or which may reduce the stress of the mother. Let's also talk about the essential fatty acids. We know that essential nutrients are the nutrients which cannot be synthesized in the body, and therefore it is important, or it's vital for us or for the caregivers to ensure they have included that nutrients through the diet. So essential fatty acid, for instance, we have two main essential fatty acids, and these are the linoleic fatty acid and the linolenic fatty acids. So essential fatty acids and their derivatives are important for membrane functions, synapse functions, and myelinations. That means supposed to provide sufficient essential fatty acids for all these functions to happen. So basically in this lecture we have discussed the effect of nutrition on brain development. We have focused on the role of the nutrients that are essential for brain development, and also the long-term consequence of undernutrition in the early life of a child. And we have also talked about the importance of breastfeeding and also the importance of including essential fatty acids in the child's diet.